Get the Tea on Me Royalty. I want to get on here today and do a little affirmation. Basically speaking on learning how to stay grounded in situations where there is an abundance of upheaval. So we've all went through those moments in our life where we've had chaotic moments, things that just spun out of control, car accidents, losing our job. Some people have even lost their homes to house fires. And I hope I didn't trigger anyone. Though these things happen in life and we have to know how to pivot. What I've learned is you have to know how to pivot. I look at life now as a game. It's a game where you have to be very experienced. In one of my videos, I speak about how I used to watch the Roadrunner cartoon when I was younger, and how the Roadrunner, would always get away. The coyote would always try a trick to catch the Roadrunner. The coyote would always try something to catch the Roadrunner. Though the plan that he would use to try to catch the Roadrunner, when it didn't work, he would never try that idea again. And I always used to see where if he just tweaked the idea a little bit, he could have caught the Roadrunner. And so what I'm doing now is I'm learning from my past mistakes to make me a better person in the future in regards to, what I may have done wrong in a business. The other, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, as I was going through a moment, after my husband passed, as I was going through a moment, I was moving. It was a lot going on. I had things that I was moving, and I'm just gonna say I almost set my whole house on fire because I set a stack of books on top of my stove, which was turned off, but I'm moving things around in the kitchen. These books were there, so I said, let me set them right here on top of the stove. Though when I set them on top of the stove, somehow the weight of the books being against the dial turned it a little bit, and it turned it in the direction of high heat. Okay. Well, actually, it turned it in the direction of low heat. It could have turned it in the direction of high heat. And so these books sat on the stove all night on low heat. Those books could have ignited while I was sleeping. Okay. Anything could have happened. Spirit has shown me multiple times to where I could have been toast and I ended up coming out jam. Okay, I ended up coming out jam and jelly. Okay, and the way that I found out that the stove was turned on is I went into the kitchen, and normally I'm playing my music, and so I wouldn't have heard it if I would have had my music on. For some reason that day I wasn't playing my music, but I was on my way out the door with those books sitting on top of that burner that had just been turned on low, and I go into the kitchen. Something kept saying, go into the kitchen. And I listened to my ancestors, but something was telling me to go into the kitchen. So I went into the kitchen. But then I couldn't remember what I went in there for. And so as I'm standing there thinking, what did I come in here for? I hear tick, tick. You know how when you're something's settling or when something's heating up, it makes like you can hear like the metal crackling. That's what I heard. And I was like, what is that? That sounds like my stove is on. And so I turned around to go and check the stove. And sure enough, the bottom of the book, and I can show you guys the book. Actually, the book is outside of my car because it's one of my medical books that I study from as a native doctor. And I look at the bottom of this book. All of the plastic have burned off the bottom of this book. Okay, on my stove, and the heat had penetrated the book to almost. The book is about this thick, but the heat had penetrated the book about this much of the book, and so that many of the pages were brown, where the heat had turned it brown, meaning it was about to ignite. Okay, so if I would have left my home that day and went to do my little shopping, baby, I would have came back in everything that I treasured. But it was some of the things, would have been gone, and I can just say that, with this affirmation, I'm basically saying, gratitude. Let's learn to stay in a space of gratitude for all that we have, you know, um, and to not, step outside of that gratitude. Things have happened to us in life. Yes, we may have even lost a child, or have, lost a limb, a arm, or a leg, or, I'm talking about things that, because if people are on here and you just lost your keys, I'm speaking about things where people have really lost things, and have really went through things, and they're still going. They're continuing to move forward. And so all I can say is, just no matter what it is that's going on in your life, just try to always find the solution. I've learned in my life to not focus on the problem, to just look at the solution. For the most part, um just keep moving. The only way you can fail in life is if you do not continue to move forward. Okay. There's a saying that goes, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. Okay. So a bend in your path, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. So if you see a bend in the road and something's happening, then you need to go with that bend. Because if you keep going straight, trying to be stubborn, you're going to go off the road. So just like I said, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. Look at life in a way, with the eye of gratitude, because there's people that have been through so much worse, and I mentioned some of those things that people could have been through at the beginning of this video, that could have been far and beyond worse than anything we've ever experienced. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, and hopefully this video made someone feel just a little bit more grateful today, because at the end of the day, no matter what they say, in each and every single way, I am royalty. You are royalty. We are royalty, family, and I shall see you in a minute. Ashe.